Hey everyone, I'm Sean Deveney from Heavy.com Sports. I've got our NBA insider Steve Bulpett with me. Hi Steve, how are you this morning?
Living the dream. How are you?
Oh, as always, doing well, doing well. Looking at the Celtics and sort of what's happened so far this summer, where July 16th, things have sort of slowed down, I think, to say the least. Not many of the free agents are left. Certainly, there's some big trades hanging out there in terms of possibilities. Just sort of generally, what have you made of the Celtics summer and where they are now?
Well, I think it's been pretty successful. They had some needs to fill, and they've essentially filled them. Maybe they'd like to get another center for depth, but that's something that can happen down the line. I'm not sure there's a huge concern there right now, but they've addressed their needs. Another outside shooter. And they've actually got two, but Gallinari as a kind of a sniper out there, and Malcolm Brogdon for another point guard type, combo guard but point guard type who can help them in that regard, and a guy with some size as well. So I think they've met their needs, and now it's a matter of polishing the edges.
The big guy thing is probably the most prominent. Obviously trading away Daniel Tice to get Malcolm Brogdon, and not necessarily getting any sort of center after that. What do you think the direction is with that? Is there do they think that maybe there's a young guy on the roster, whether it's Luke Cornett, somebody on the summer league team? Kevin Gilly has looked pretty good at times. Trevion Williams. Or do you think that they go veteran, Boogie Cousins or Dwight Howard would be sort of the extreme examples? What do you think they lean on that?
I think they'd like to get a veteran type. I think they're comfortable with Luke Cornett in a pinch, but they're looking for someone that's not going to cost them a lot of money there, right? Daniel Tice had a pretty hefty contract for Daniel Tice. So as much as they liked what he did and how he fit and understood what they were doing, you've got to budget for your position so you can pay the people that you really need to pay. And clearly they've gone over the tax, which if you're a team that's going to compete for something, you're pretty much fated to do. But I think, if a veteran shakes loose, and look, there's still a lot of shaking loose to do, right? Because once the Kevin Durant thing gets settled, there are going to be at least two rosters, maybe three, maybe four, that look a lot different, because it's going to have to be. I think it's going to have to be at least a three-way trade for Kevin Garnett. Yeah, okay. Let's stretch Kevin KG up and put him in. For Kevin Durant. So those teams are going to have guys, and there may be players involved in that deal that end up getting, waived. You saw the Celtics make the deal with the Pacers for Brogdon, and three of the guys that they sent there got waived because they had to make room for the DeAndre Ayton offer sheet. So there are going to be guys who are not available right now who are going to be just, free agents that are already getting paid because they got waived. So someone like that, I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone of that ilk.
Yeah, right. Where you can pay a minimum contract, and it does sort of hit exponentially because of the luxury tax, but it's a little, every million less that you can spend that way benefits the bottom line, no question.
$1 million here and $1 million there. After a while, you're talking real money.
You're talking real money. That's right. Yeah. Brad and Emmy referenced this a little bit. Maybe going small a little bit more. That didn't seem something that they were terribly comfortable with last year. Certainly, if you've got a healthy Robert Williams, you want to have on the floor. But the possibility of Gallinari playing some center, which he did in Atlanta the last couple of years. You wouldn't think of doing that 10 years ago, but now maybe that's an option.
I'm not sure that meets their defensive needs. I think if they're going small, I think it's more likely you'll see Grant Williams using his beef in that situation. Look, going small, staying big, all these different things. The key for the Celtics during this regular season anyway is making sure that they shepherd Al Horford and Rob Williams through it in relatively good health, right? Al certainly, he's going to be 36 then. That's his presence is critical to what you need to do in the postseason. So getting him through the first 82 intact is huge. And as we know, Rob Williams over the years, has had, injuries crop up. So you want to be able to manage minutes and maximize minutes. So, I think they're going to do a number of things, realizing that with the roster they have, they're competing for a championship. And if in managing your minutes and managing your load and all those things during the year costs you a game or two, and that game costs you a seeding, perhaps, it's not what you want, but you have to win one game in the other team's ballpark to turn home court advantage right back around. I mean, it certainly helped the Celtics to win on the last day and not avoid the Nets in the first round, so that they had home court advantage for Game 7 against the Bucks. That was important. But when you're a team of that quality, you've got to look at it and say, hey, it's more important to be healthy and intact in the playoffs than necessarily to have home court advantage.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit to Summer League, and you and I were out there, and part of being at Summer League is you probably do 90% of your work, in the tunnels or in the stands and chatting with people, and you don't get to watch a lot of basketball. So that's one of the issues. But one guy who's made somewhat of an impression, certainly 28-10 the other day, is J.D. Davison, the second round pick. He's on a two-way deal at this point. Of course, they can convert that at any time to an NBA deal if they want to. Probably no hurry with there. But what do you have as some maybe expectations for him for this season? Any chance he sees the floor, and what would you like to see him do over the course of the next year or so?
I think he's a total developmental player. He was. It's weird when you can read a guy's – I watched him some last year at Alabama, and then you read a guy's scouting report, and damn, if he didn't check every box of the scouting report when he was out in Vegas, the good, the bad, the ugly, all that stuff, he needs to get better control. But we're talking about a guy who's played 1 year of college basketball, and needs to understand the game on this, and then forget about the lack of experience, chronologically in years. Then there's the level part of it. Going from college to pro is huge, and needing to be able to see the floor and avoid mistakes. Right, as much as the great stuff you do, mistakes are even more costly. As they always say, live ball turnovers will kill you. And for that, we point to the 2022 Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals for that. As the coaches always tell you, it's the 2 points you don't have a chance to get versus the 2 points you're essentially giving them with a live ball turnover. So, yeah, I think he's a guy that, check in during the year on him periodically, see how he's doing, but he's a guy that you're looking to develop over the course of time. Because I'm not sure where there are minutes for him even on this team right now. So, where's he going to play?
Yeah, and I do look at it as I would rather have a guy who plays a little wild and you've got to tame him than a guy who plays too tame and you've got to make him wild. You can do one, you can't really do the other, and I think that's the case with him.
One of my favorite Doc Rivers quotes is, he said, I'd rather try to tame a lion than teach a house cat to fight.
Right. He put it much more succinctly than I did. So
Man is a doctor.
He is a doctor, as he says from time to time. One thing that you mentioned that there wouldn't be many minutes for J.D. Davison. I'm wondering how do you see the Celtics struggling to find minutes now for Peyton Pritchard now that they've got 3 ball handlers and 3 guys defensively that I think Ime is going to really like? Is that an issue going forward?
Yeah, I wonder about that. I was thinking about that a bunch. Ime was not really comfortable with the young shooters. You've got to give shooter. We've talked about this a billion times, Sean. You've got to give shooters their touches. You've got to guarantee them that if you want to keep them in rhythm, if you want them to have a chance to be, adept when you need them to be late in a game. In the finals, we wrote about this that Peyton Pritchard's minutes essentially got cut in half. His shots got cut in half. Yeah. It's hard to expect stuff from a guy like that, from someone in that situation. So, I wonder how that's going to fit in. Hopefully, with a year under his belt as head coach, Ime will be a lot more comfortable, moving guys in and in through the lineup and then in through the rotation. Because I think look, we talk about getting Al Horford and Rob Williams through the regular season healthy. It's going to be hugely important for the Celtics to get Malcolm Brogdon through the year healthy. This is guys that had some serious injury issues over the years, and we just played a handful of games last year. That's a spot there too that you need to be concerned about. So I wonder where the minutes for Peyton Pritchard are going to come, but I think if Ime is smart, he'll find them.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate it. And we will check back in on the Celtics in their offseason as things progress. Thanks, everyone, for watching.